A very good morning to everyone. Myself, Mutmainah Khonke, welcome you all to PINS Star Istanbul. We are privileged to host you for the continuing professional development program on antimicrobial drug resistance. Before we begin the auspicious event, let's evoke the blessings of the divine by lighting the lamp. Tradition that signifies victory of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance and wisdom. I request all the dignitaries to please perform lamp lighting. I request respected Dean Ma'am, respected Warders Ma'am, Dr. Saeed Manrukar Ma'am, the chief guest of today's program, Dr. Ravindra Moite Sir, MMC Observer, Dr. Sajid Patel Sir, all the dignitaries to please sit up on the stage. We would like to express our gratitude with a moment too, as a token of appreciation. Let's express a sincere appreciation towards our esteemed guest, which will be a source of knowledge and inspiration for today. I request Dr. Chaudhary sir, Head of the Department of Pharmacology, to felicitate our respected Dean Ma'am, Dr. Rahini Karamelkar Ma'am. Please give a round of applause. Now we request Dr. Sachin Patil sir to felicitate Dr. Ravindra Mori sir, MMC Observer. I request respected Dean Ma'am to felicitate today's chief guest, Dr. Salim Manjulkar, who is the President of IMA Urban Islampur. I request Dr. Chaudhary sir to felicitate today's speaker, Dr. Yogendra Shekhi sir. I request Dr. Suraj sir to felicitate Dr. Neelam Asar ma'am. I request Dr. Shabir Pendari sir to felicitate Dr. Preeti Dhani ma'am. I request Dr. Mali ma'am to felicitate Dr. Karim ma'am, who is Academic Dean of PIMS and Arts and also Coordinator of MEU PIMS Islampur. Thank you everybody. Now we'll hand over to Dr. Respected Chowdhury sir.
Good morning, one and all. So, this is the first time we organize this offline live CPD on antimicrobial drug registers. First of all, I welcome all the speakers who have traveled from such a long distance to enlighten us with the knowledge regarding this topic. And I am also thankful to all the delegates that have registered themselves for this CPD. So, with the permission of the madam, we will continue the session. So we'll start with the session. So everyone here might be knowing this term, that is antimicrobial resistance or antimicrobial resistance. Purposefully we have used the word antimicrobial, not the antibiotic. Okay, because resistance occurs in every possibly every microorganism. That may be bacteria, virus, fungus, that may be other microorganisms. Okay, so I will share something related to the current scenario. What actually the burden of this antimicrobial resistance is there? Why is it important to discuss on this topic? We might have seen different media news. There are a huge rise or surge of the antimicrobial resistance that has led to the very serious or critical problem in the healthcare system. So AMR, antimicrobial resistance, means what actually we are targeting certain microorganisms by the drugs that are basically antibiotic, antifungal, so on the drugs that kills those microorganisms and the patient gets improved. But the resistance will what occurs even in presence of that drug, the microorganism grows, multiplies and survives. In that case, we cannot use that drug for that microorganism. So this resistance can be of two types. Natural resistance means certain microorganisms are already resistant to that drug, those drugs, because whatever the mechanism of action of that drug is there, that mechanism is not available in that microorganism, so that drug cannot act against those microorganisms. So that is called as natural or innate resistance. That is not the problem for us, because we are knowing that certain drugs like amoxicillin are not active against gram negative. Amoxicillin cannot be used as antifungal drug. We know outside. So that is not the issue. Where the problem arises is the acquired drug resistance, where actually that drug was useful in that case for that microorganism, for that disease in past. But later on, after some time, that microorganism has modified themselves so that now drug doesn't act. So that is the problem. And this has happened with certain microorganisms. Those have modified themselves to act and survive against number of antibiotics or antimicrobials. So now there is the problem, because why? We don't have much options to kill that microorganism. So we start prescribing the antibiotics in layman's term, or in medical term, this is called the newer antimicrobials, the rare antimicrobials that act by specific mechanism. But even after certain time, that microorganisms become resistant to that drug. And that is the only problem, and that happens mostly with the chronic diseases like tuberculosis, HIV, and most of the fungal infections. Even the malaria. We have seen different resistant cases of alpha-percent, falciparum, resistant to chloroquine, resistant to quinine. Even the resistant to the artemisinin derivatives has been observed in different parts of India. That is the most important critical serious issue regarding the drug resistance. MRSA, PRE, we know that one. This is resistant Staph aureus, vancomycin resistant drogopine. So problem because of this drug resistance is the mortality and morbidity in the patients rises, the healthcare cost rises, the duration of hospital stay is prolonged. So such patients are not being controlled by those antimicrobials. That is the most serious issue regarding this AMR. That hinders the whole of sustainable development. AMR makes infections harder to treat, and that's why the WHO has declared this AMR being the one of the most very important causes of serious complications of public health that threats the humanity. These are the certain factors that provoke the drug resistance that you will see at last. What actually burnt is there? This is the most serious public health problem that threats the 21st century, and major issue related to the mortality and morbidity of the patient. In world, approximately 7 lakh people die every year due to the drug resistant infection. This much is the huge burden of this AMR regarding the world. However, in India, about 50,000 babies that died in 1 year because of the result of infections that are resistant to bacteria. That is the most serious issue. Okay. In global scenario, one child dies every 3 minutes because of multiple resistant organism. About 1.27 billion deaths attributable to the bacterial AMR per year. 28 billion people living in poverty, and this poverty directly leads to AMR. How? Because there are poor sanitation, poor hygiene practices, lack of immunization, lack of hygiene practices. Okay, not exposure to the resources, health resources like the hospitals, the drugs itself. Okay, around 1 trillion US dollar is spent on the healthcare of the cost of the US. 7.5% decline in livestock in the 2050. This AMR being not related to the use of drugs in human being, because we are living on earth with certain other living organisms as well. So we have certain domestic animals. So veterinary practices also use antimicrobials for those animals, and those resistant microorganisms, those present in that domestic animals, so can also be transmitted to the human being. Okay. About 10 billion deaths by 2050, which are costing about the 66 trillion pounds. Antibiotic resistance led to the leading cause of death by 2050. Currently, about 7 lakh estimate of the antimicrobial resistance, which is the leading cause of death. Even more than the teenagers, road accidents, the measles, the diarrhea disease itself, and the causal diabetes. So that's why this topic is important to be discussed and knowledge to be shared, so that we can prevent the antimicrobial reactions, we can curtail the antimicrobial resistance somehow. The superbugs, that is the most common term nowadays human beings, the medicals or doctors use while discussing with any resistant infection. Superbug means what? We have very much less options against that microorganism in terms of the drugs that can be effective against that microorganism, because that microorganism become resistant to number of drugs. The Mycobacterium tuberculosis being the one of the examples. It has become resistant to rifampicin, isoniazid, and so on. So we have shifted now to the newer group of drugs, the newer chloromethazines like levofloxacin and betaine, like other drugs. So at the same time, where the microorganisms are going to becoming resistant to the drugs, at the same time we have less newer addition in the group of that antimicrobials, because somehow they have occurred seeding to the discovery of newer antimicrobials. So we have to choose among those only that are available in our hand. Around 1.27 billion eggs, the bacterial AMR, 1 in 5 eggs caused by AMR occurred in children under age. That before 5 years of age, 1 out of 5 eggs that are occurred because of AMR only. There are different issues that remain unanswered. That's why the AMR increases, because the resources are not available in rural and peripheral population. The cultural sensitive reports are not available, and we are just trying and trying. The antibiotic देके लेकिन ये नहीं होता है, दूसरा 2 दिन के बाद चेंज करके नहीं होता है, तब तक the patient becomes more and more serious, and the death might occur in that case. Why India should be concerned regarding AMR? Because we have highest infectious disease burden in India, because overpopulation is there, overcrowding is there, poor sanitation is there, hygiene practices are not there, hand hygiene, even the hand hygiene we have to teach. During the COVID, we have to teach the hand hygiene to the each and every person in India. Okay. Then immunization practices are not covered. The most of the children are not being immunized fully. That is the most important issue regarding the infectious disease in children. The economic burden, even the very less amount of GDP is spent on the healthcare, and that too on the infrastructure mostly, not on actually the drug discovery, the health resources, the immunization as such. The vulnerable groups are there in India: children, elderly population, the immunocompromised patients like HIV and all other immunocompromised patients. Widespread use of antibiotics in agriculture, yes, even from domestic animals and also from the agricultural area, where their antimicrobials are used for certain purposes, to prevent infection over the plants, to have the overgrowth of certain fruits or the vegetables. Certain antimicrobials are being used by farmers in the agriculture, and if that is consumed, that vegetables are consumed, that again is directly entering inside the human's body, and somehow that microorganism is exposed to suboptimal doses of that antibiotic or antimicrobial, and sooner that microorganism becomes resistant to that drug. 4 out of 10 patients with infection ICU are the drug resistant. 3 out of 10 patients are with the drug resistant bacteria, making very difficult. Why we have to worry more? Because by 2010, India was the world's largest consumer of India, even more than China. Largest consumer of the antibiotic. That means antimicrobials or antibiotics are being used irrationally, unethically, without any cause. Just we have the drugs, patient is paying, just we are going to try this amoxicillin ले लो, ceftriaxone ले लो, उसके बाद में cefixime ले लो, उसके बाद में नहीं हो तो meropenem ले लो. We are trying everything in that patient without identifying the organism as such, without identifying our culture or sensitivity of that microorganism. The cholesterol being the last resort to the most of the infections, where most of the drugs doesn't get. But in India, the microorganisms are also being resistant to the cholesterol. So we don't have much options now. So we have to think about that regarding the resuscitation of antimicrobials, your facilities for the identifying the actual positive organism and its sensitivity towards certain antimicrobial, and the only precisely that should be used. That will prevent or that will save the cost as well as suffering of that patient. See, about 87% of aminoacids like amoxicillin and ampicillin are being resistant in E. coli are resistant to those. And almost most of these molecules, penicillin, amoxicillin, even the combination carbapenem, piperacillin, tazobactam is said to be the ICU drug, last resort. And the amino glycosides are being the most common. Those are about more than 70 up to 70 to 90% of the E. coli species are resistant to these drugs. These are the different microorganisms, individual microorganisms that are resistant to carbapenem, Klebsiella, E. coli resistant to provolone, E. coli resistant to cholesterol, which causes nosocomial infection, most commonly E. coli and Klebsiella. Gonorrhea being resistant to almost all group of drugs. There is no single group that has been left over there. Sulfonamides, penicillin, tetracycline, chlorobenzone are the reasons we don't have much option regarding the treatment of Neisseria gonorrhea. Animals are also being treated by the veterinary officer. They also use antimicrobial drugs that are, but animals are fed with those, and since certain animals be products like milk, if that is consumed by human being, indirectly those microbials are entering in our body, and our microbials are present in our body. Those they are exposed to suboptimal doses of those antimicrobial drugs again, and so those again become resistant to that. In future, if that microorganism causes infection in that person, such antimicrobials are of no use in that person. Same for the animals, same for the environment. Certain pollutants from the industries, certain pollutants from the pharmaceutical industries, from the agricultural itself, wastewater, and it has been found the wastewater contains traces of the antimicrobials. Even the drinking water also contains the traces of the antimicrobials that are consumed by us, and again it leads to the antimicrobial resistance. HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, these are the most important infections. Now, at the search of the antimicrobial resistance, that we are searching for the actually the active drug that can treat, that can somehow manage the HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. Almost neuraminidine coverage, that was the drug used for prophylaxis. It has, the HIV virus has also become resistant to that. We have to shift to the newer integrated transfer inhibitor like dolutegravir. So we have to spend more and more money to discover the new drug against that microorganism. And even if you discover one drug, that discovery is under certain controlled conditions. The data is again unlimited. Sorry, the data is again limited. Not that much. We can prove that that drug is effective against that microorganism. So when actually the drug comes to the practice, it shows less effect as it is shown. It has shown in the trials. So this is again the most important parameter regarding the AMR. Resistant to falsifier is resistant to chloroquine, pyrimethamine, mefloquine, haloperidol, sulfamazine, quinine, even the ACT and the artemisinin combination therapy. It is again some of the falsifiers are resistant to the artemisinin or artemisinin combination itself. So we don't have much options. Same for electric fever. During my UG studies, I was studying that ciprofloxacin is the drug of choice for electric fever. Okay. Then later on, when I came to do my PG, that time it was said that all the salmonella they are resistant to the ciprofloxacin. Now the drug of choice is the cefixime and the macrolides like azithromycin. So later on, it is found that the use of ciprofloxacin was being decreased. Now that salmonella has become resistant to cefixime as well as the azithromycin, the macrolides, and it is now sensitive to ciprofloxacin. So that ciprofloxacin has reborn as a anti-typhoid drug. So this happens. Why that happens? Because there is marked overuse of the antimicrobial drugs where that is not indicated. That too for viral disease, that too for allergic disease, that too for fungal disease, we are using antibiotic, and there it leads to the antimicrobial resistance. In microbial tuberculosis, we don't have much options. हमने पहले पढ़ा था EDR, multi-drug resistant. अभी आ गया XDR, extensive drug resistant means it is almost resistant to all the first-line antimicrobial drugs, even the aminoglycosides, second. So we have shifted to the again to the fluoroquinolones like neofloxacin, cycloserine, beta-acycline, and other group of drugs. Problems are because of the antibiotic misuse that led to the morbidity and mortality. How to find the linkage between this AMR, how that happens, that is linked to the usage. Whatever, how to, even we have the proverb that practice makes man perfect. Means if you do one thing repeatedly, every 10 minutes for a day or up to 1 year, you will be expert in that thing. कोई भी चाय बनाने वाला रोज वही काम करता है, he becomes expert in that thing because he repeats that. That is over exposure to that thing. And same happens with the microorganisms. Those if get repeatedly exposed to that microbial, they themselves modify somehow to counteract that mechanism. सेलुलोज सिंथेसिस को इनहिबिट करेंगे, प्रोड्यूसिंग तो अल्टरनेटिव मेटेरियल्स को सिंथेसिस करेंगे, एंजाइम में तो कुछ इनहिबिट करेंगे, कुछ डिस्ट्रॉय वाला एंजाइम बनाएंगे, दैट विल बी डिस्कस later on. So there is increased consumption of carbapenems. There is cephalosporins. Even the third generation cephalosporins are being the most commonly drug nowadays. Antimicrobials. Amox बहुत rarely देते. Ciprofloxacin, azithromycin, macrolides, fluoroquinolones, less commonly are administered. Third generation cephalosporin that we have kept as a reserve drug for resistant infection. Those are commonly administered nowadays for any infection, that may be viral, fungal, any allergic condition that may be. Fever है patient को नहीं है फिर भी दो antibiotic because sometimes patient also demands, sometimes doctor thinks that he might get secondary infection. जो होने वाला है उसके लिए पहले दे दो, बाद में रजिस्टर साइड हो। दिस इज नॉट द वे, ओके। एंड समहाउ देयर आर सर्टेन अदर पर्सनल इश्यूज ऐसे कि हमको उतना टारगेट है कि इतने डोज का हमको स्टॉक खत्म करना है। जैसे रिलेटेड टू द फार्मा एंड डॉक्टर्स रिलेशन, जो वहां पे उनको निश्चित करके कुछ बेनिफिट्स गिफ्ट देने के बहाने उनको बोलते हैं कि आज आप एक फार्मा के स्टॉक एक महीने में इतना खत्म करें। सो दैट इज अगेन लीडिंग टू द रेजिस्टेंस। Prescribing practices in India: 30% of all hospital patients in any given time receive antibiotics. 1/3 of the patients gets the antibiotic, whether he or she need or doesn't need, irrespective of the need. Over about 30% of antibiotics are prescribed improperly in the community. Now, there are three terms: overuse of the antimicrobials, that we all know, unnecessary use or overuse. Underuse also somehow causes the antimicrobial resistance. And inappropriate use. Inappropriate means what? We prescribe 5 days course of certain antimicrobial to the patient. Patient goes to his pharmacy store or dispensary. He thinks that I have only 100 rupees and it costs around 500 rupees. तो वो क्या बोलता है केमिस्ट को कि मुझे 3 दिन का डोज दे, बाकी मैं बाद में लूंगा, और वो कभी लेता नहीं। So that means there is a suboptimal addition of incomplete dosage that will lead to the antimicrobial resistance. That is again the problem. Okay. Up to 30% of all surgical prophylaxis are inappropriate. In respect of the क्या होने वाला है अपने सर्जन का अपडेट होने वाला है, वहाँ पे एलोरी वाला प्रोफिलैक्सिस देना है, ग्राम नेगेटिव वाला प्रोफिलैक्सिस देना नहीं। हमारा क्या है प्रोटोकॉल? ये 3 प्रोफिलैक्सिस के देते हैं, प्री सर्जरी प्रोफिलैक्सिस के देते हैं, तो वही देंगे हम। That is not against active against ग्राम नेगेटिव, so that is of no use. It will lead to the AMR, antimicrobial. 30% of hospital therapy costs are due to antimicrobial. Only patients cost of therapy or cost of treatment is around 30% of the antimicrobials only, not for other drugs. 10 to 30% of antimicrobial costs can be saved by the antimicrobial stewardship program. This is the most important initiative taken by the government of India. The Yogi Medical College has to run the antimicrobial stewardship program, and that we are soon going to start this in our institute as well. Surge of antimicrobial disease has occurred. Why? Easy access, OTC. This is the most important problem. So accordingly, government has taken some key initiatives. कोई भी जाता है एमोक्सिलिन ऐसे ही किराना दुकान में जैसे जाके डिस्पेंसर्स लेके आता है, उसको पता ही नहीं 5 डेज का लेना है, बीडी लेना है, टीडीएस लेना है, क्या करो मेरे थोड़ा सा गुलानी हो रहा है, फार्मेसी में प्रिस्क्राइब कर देता है उसको विदाउट एनी प्रिस्क्रिप्शन, ले 10 रुपए दो, 2 एमोक्सिलिन दे दो, 2 खाने से उसका हो जाएगा, एजिथ्रोमाइसिन ले हो जाएगा नहीं। सो दिस लीड टू द अगेन एएमआर, इजी एक्सेस और ओवर द काउंटर डिस्पेंसिंग ऑफ द एंटीबायोटिक सेल्फ मेडिकेशन। हमारे यहाँ बहुत अभी तो व्हाट्सएप भी हो गया, गूगल के भी आगे चले गए। पहले गूगल हमारा डॉक्टर बन गया, फिजिशियन के बाद गूगल बन गया, गूगल बोलता है ये मेडिसिन तो देते थे, अभी गूगल को छोड़ अभी व्हाट्सएप बन गया, व्हाट्सएप पे लिख ये गाना ले लो, इससे अच्छा होगा, इससे अच्छा होगा। सो नाउ वी आर नॉट गोइंग इन डिटेल क्लिनिकल टेक्निक्स रिगार्डिंग दैट ड्रग, व्हाट कुड बी डायग्नोसिस, व्हाट कुड बी इंजेक्शन, नहीं देख रहे हम। या दोस्त ने बताया यार मेरे को फीवर आया था, मैं ये लिया हो गया, मेरा गला दुखा था ये लिया हो गया, तो अभी ठीक है मैं भी वही लेता हूं। So this is the self medication that leads to the AMR. Non-identity of the non-regulation of the laboratory services. नहीं, most of the even tertiary care hospitals doesn't have the identification of positive organism. ये इसको फीवर में आईसीयू पेशेंट में पॉजिटिव ऑर्गेनिज्म ढूंढ के निकालेंगे नहीं, सेंसिटिविटी नहीं, मैक्सिमम जगह पे नहीं है। तो हम क्या करते हैं डायरेक्टली अंधेरे में तीन चलाते रहते हैं, एक एक दो ड्रग दिन के लिए ड्रग लेके देखेंगे, ये दिया नहीं, अभी अगला दिन, उसके बाद भी सब खत्म होने के बाद तब तक पेशेंट की खत्म हो चुका है। वेडिंग अप्रोच ऑफ ट्रीटिंग डॉक्टर्स, एंजाइटी, मुझे लगता है कि मैं मिस कर दूंगा कोई इन्फेक्शन है तो इसलिए मैं पहले ही देता हूं एंटीबायोटिक, होगा काम में आएगा, नहीं होगा तो क्या नुकसान है, उसके 100 रुपए जाएंगे, ज्यादा नहीं नुकसान होगा, उससे ज्यादा नुकसान होगा कम्युनिटी को। अगर एएमआर बना होगा ये सब तो वो पूरी कम्युनिटी को कवर करेगा, वहां पे कोई ऑप्शन नहीं रहेगा आपके पास। कवरिंग द सेकेंडरी बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन, लैक ऑफ अप टू डेट नॉलेज, जैसे अपना सीपीडी है, सीएमई है, ये कंडक्ट नहीं होते, अटेंड नहीं करते, तो अपडेट नॉलेज नहीं होता है। मैं अभी अगर प्रैक्टिस कर रहा था तो मैं अभी भी सिप्रोफिल नहीं लेता था, क्योंकि मेरे यूज में मैंने सिप्रो पढ़ा था टाइफाइड के लिए, बाद में पढ़ा सिपिसिन, तो मैंने फिर सिपिसिन शुरू किया था। लेकिन जब अपडेट होते रहा तो पता चला कि फिर से वो सेंसिटिव बना सिप्रो, वन कैन यूज दैट आल्सो विदाउट आइडेंटिफाइंग दैट एक्चुअली द सेंसिटिव। जब तक नहीं पता चलती तब तक हम ऐसी गाइड करते हैं। एम्पिरिकल बट इनकरेक्ट यूज ऑफ एंटीबायोटिक्स, more than one antibiotics which are not actually necessary, viral treatment की जरूरत नहीं है, not be expected to be well possible efficiency in the review of the response क्या है वो देखने के पहले कभी-कभी क्या होता है, मैंने खुद ने मेरे रिसर्च में देखा कि आज सुबह एंटीबायोटिक ड्रग शुरू किया सिकुलोज ने बेबीज में चाइल्ड हॉस्पिटल में था, तो इवनिंग तक उसको अगर रिस्पांस नहीं आया तो इवनिंग के टाइम या फिर मोस्टली नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग के राउंड में वो चेंज होता है। दोस्त में कोई भी ड्रग उतना रिस्पांस नहीं दिखाएगा। ओके, सो वी हैव टू वेट फॉर 2 days 3 days, तो फिर हम वो चेंज करते हैं। उसी टाइप मैकेनिज्म का एक्सपोजर वो ड्रग के लिए क्या होता है, सब ऑप्टिमल डोज पे होता है, वो खुद को मॉडिफाई करना शुरू करता है। जैसे हम किसी दुश्मन का पूरा कोई रिपीट की टीम हो, किसी के साथ आपको डिबेट करना है, तो उसका पूरा हम पढ़ लेते हैं कि इसके एक्स फैक्टर्स क्या है, वहां पे मैं टारगेट करूंगा। तो वो ड्रग के बारे में वो बैक्टीरिया पूरा पढ़ लेता है, बायोलॉजी जो कुछ है, और वहां उसको वो मॉडिफाई करके खुद को सर्वाइव करता है। लैक ऑफ स्ट्रिक्ट इंप्लीमेंटेशन, ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट। गवर्नमेंट स्ट्रिक्ट पॉलिसीज नहीं है। ये इंस्टीट्यूट दिए उन्होंने, रेड लाइन कैंपेन लिया, शेड्यूल H1 बनाया, नेशनल एंटीबायोटिक पॉलिसी बनाया, नेशनल एक्शन प्लान बनाया, लेकिन वहां पे आंसरेबल वो नहीं, ये बोला ही नहीं। ओटीसी नहीं, ओटीसी मत करो, एंटीमाइक्रोबियल नोटिस जारी किया, प्रेस नोटिस के मत करो, हो गया। लेकिन कौन कर रहा है, उसको क्या एक्शन है, उसको कुछ पनिशमेंट है, पेनल्टी है, नहीं, तो फिर वो कौन बंद करेगा? एवरीवन वांट्स टू अर्न मनी, तो वो करते रहेंगे। वो शेड्यूल बिगिनिंग के सेशन में हम देखेंगे व्हाट एक्चुअली दैट मींस। डिमांड एंड एक्सपेक्टेशन आर द स्टेक होल्डर्स, एथिकल चैलेंजेस आर द हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स के, वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा एंटीबायोटिक स्टेप करके वो हमको गिफ्ट लेना है, कोई आइटम है, कोई विजिट है, कोई टूर है, लाइक अनएथिकल कमर्शियल प्रैक्टिसेस, misuse and overuse. Additionally, the livestock animal husbandry, we have discussed the animals, the agriculture, the pollutants, the environment that have also role in the AMR. We'll share this PPT on our CME group. No need to take pictures. Inappropriate use of antibiotic, again same things. Even without diagnosis, हम diagnosis करने के पहले ही पेशेंट को प्रिस्क्राइब करना शुरू करते हैं। मैं जब मेरे यूनिट में था, इंटर्नशिप में, तो हमको आदत थी, पेशेंट आया, 150 पेशेंट ओपी में, क्या हो गया, ये सब गर्दन में दर्द, प्रूफ है, और क्या होता है, पैर दर्द, टाइट लो, मतलब वो जब एक ही सिम्टम बताता है, एक ही ड्रग ऐड होता है, इतना बड़ा डिस्क्रिप्शन बनता है। सेम ड्रग कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर मल्टीपल एलिमेंट्स, नहीं, वहां पे डुप्लीकेशन हो रहा है। सेम होता है एंटीमाइक्रोबियल्स, जरूरी नहीं तब देते हैं, इरिस्पेक्टिवली अननेसेसरी दो ड्रग देते हैं, उनका इंटरेक्शन क्या है वो पता नहीं है, ड्रग के इंटरेक्शन का भी पता नहीं है हमको, दैट लीड्स टू द and without any diagnostic facilities. Environmental contamination, gaps of infection prevention control, that is not been routinely होता है, वो इसके स्वैब जाते हैं, वहाँ भी कल्चर रिपोर्ट आने तक वेट करने की वजह प्रोसीजर शुरू रहते हैं, तो क्योंकि वो आज तक 50 डेज तक आते नहीं रिपोर्ट, तो या तो ओटी बंद रहेगी या फिर वैसे ही प्रोसीजर करता रहेगा, दोनों में से एक चूज करना है। डिफिकल्टी इन इन्फोर्सिंग रेगुलेशन, लैक ऑफ सफिशिएंट फाइनेंसेस, अगेन गवर्नमेंट जीडीपी का कुछ हिस्सा ही खर्च करती है हेल्थ पे, उस पे से इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी ज्यादा खर्च होता है, क्योंकि दिखता हॉस्पिटल है, दिखते एम्बुलेंस है, बीच में आपने देखा हो क्या एम्बुलेंस का क्या ये सामने आया कि देयर हैज बीन सम मिसमैनेजमेंट रिगार्डिंग द बाइंग ऑफ द एम्बुलेंसेस एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन टू द सर्टेन हॉस्पिटल। हॉस्पिटल का बहुत बड़ा क्लिनिक है, सीटी स्कैन मशीन है वहां पे, लेकिन टेक्नीशियन नहीं, सो इट इज ऑफ नो यूज। और जीडीपी खर्च दिखाने की जब हमारा इतना खर्च है कुछ बिलियंस, लेकिन एक्चुअली पेशेंट तक पहुंच रहा है, सो दैट इज द थिंग अगेन रिगार्डिंग एट द लेवल ऑफ पॉलिसी मेकर्स एंड गवर्नमेंट। तो गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ की इनिशिएटिव लिए, जो हम तो ऊपर में डिटेल में देखेंगे, अभी मैं सिर्फ इनोवेट करता हूं। जयपुर डिक्लेरेशन, 5 ईयर प्लान, शेड्यूल H1, रेड लाइन कैंपेन, नेशनल एक्शन प्लान, ग्लोबल एंटीबायोटिक रजिस्टर सर्विस। World is also, WHO is also worried about the same, and accordingly our country India, Indian government is also working in collaboration with the WHO and our stakeholders. These are the steps how the Indian government has taken certain initiatives that we will discuss in detail in after session. So these are the certain mitigation tactics that will take control over the AMR. So our aim of the today's CPD is to sensitize you regarding the antimicrobial issue. Actually, it is the big problem, and one should know and think over regarding this AMR, antimicrobial resistance. ये प्रॉब्लम है, इतना भी सोचा आपने, that will be the achievement of CPD. वो क्या करना है वो बाद में करेंगे, लेकिन ये प्रॉब्लम बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, इतना भी सोचा तो भी सफिशिएंट है हमारी CPD के सक्सेस के लिए। To make family physicians, general practitioners, other stakeholders aware of the issue AMR and its factors regarding what can be done. To highlight some government of India initiatives that we will discuss in afternoon session, the national action plan and all others. So be patient and attend all these sessions. We are attending here offline, who are attending online through YouTube link we have provided. This will be 100% enlightening you to regarding the AMR So that will make you think before prescribing next time any antimicrobial drug. I am prescribing rationally or is it needed or not? This is the only our aim regarding this CPD. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, sir.
One more instruction is there. We have shared a link for the pre-test on your WhatsApp group as well as through your all the email address. Those have registered this secret. Okay. So kindly fill that pre-test within next 20 minutes so that we can again analyze that data and at the last of the today's CPD we will do the post test so that we can understand what actually CPD has made, if CPD has made some changes in your thoughts or ideas or knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It is very interesting topic, and as you have given us the current scenario about the what is the AMR, what is the severity, what is going on here, and what is the severity, how it is going to be impact on in our life and social both. So thank you very much. I call Dr. Karambekar Madam, our Dean, to facilitate our first speaker, our HOD, Dr. Balwant Chaudhary sir, for giving us and enlightening us a good information about the antibiotic resistance, the current scenario.
Meanwhile, please fill that Google form regarding the pre-test. Next session will start within 2 minutes. In continuation with the first session, next session is regarding the dynamics of antimicrobial resistance. How actually antimicrobial resistance occurs. This session will be delivered by Dr. Yogindra Shetty. He is currently working as a professor at microbiology at DKL Wallowa Institute, Terban, Chipadu. He has around more than 20 publications, more than 20 conferences and seminars he had attended, and he is very followed and he is working very dedicatedly in ARP regarding the HIV management. So I will hand over mic to Dr. Yogindra Shetty regarding the dynamics of antimicrobial resistance.
Good morning all. सरांनी पहिल्या लेक्चरमध्ये मोस्ट ऑफ द पॉइंट आणि इम्पॉर्टन्स इम्पॅक्ट बऱ्यापैकी कव्हर केले. मिक्स पॉप्युलेशन आहे. हिअर फॅकल्टीज आर ऑल्सो देअर, सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट्स आर ऑल्सो देअर, along with them practitioners are also present. So regarding topic given to me, dynamics, term he dynamic. So I have to cover that term in all aspects. काही repetition होते. Some repetitions are there in the slide, but these repetitions are equally important because you are today's aim of the CPD, what sir said earlier, awareness, and in 15 February 2022, one NMC circular is there. If you are aware about that, according to that NMC circular, every medical college, including private medical college, has to form the antimicrobial stewardship committee, and that committee has to report. सगळीकडे सर्क्युलर आले कमिटी, तुम्हाला माहिती नसेल तुमच्या कोणाचं नाव नोडल म्हणून गेला असेल, रेग्युलरली डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ फार्माकोलॉजी मायक्रोबायोलॉजी oblique community medicine can be a nodal officer of AM antimicrobial stewardship committee. 22 पासून एमएलसी ने एक लेटर नंतर पुढे काही केलेलं नाही आणि अचानक समजा 25 च्या नंतर जाग आली तर that reporting should be must be checked because our aim to tackle the AMR is given by WHO and we have always followed the WHO by 2030. We have to try to contain or drop down the AMR rate. N number of reasons so recently told you why AMR is rising and now I am going to give you the brief. In this 5 points, I am going to try to explain you AMR current burden in a brief. Similar point, what Chaudhary is covered. Then factors responsible for AMR. A few additions are there. Mechanism of AMR, which is my topic. How that AMR is occurring. Cellular level mechanism, other risk factors. Then AMR diagnostic modalities. That lecture also be covered later on, but I am giving you brief about the diagnostic modalities. Lastly, our efforts. Our means India's efforts to tackle this burden, whether we are aware or not. N number of policies are documented in a portal of CDC India as well as Ministry of Health. आपण तिथे जात नाही, आपण गेलो तर पाहतो, आपण डाउनलोड करून आपल्या फोल्डरला ठेवतो. तर ते बघू आपण. Now, what Sir says earlier, antimicrobial term is not deliberately used. This term is there and it is mentioned in all national guidelines, and antimicrobial is not means an antibiotic. You have to clearly note that, because you are using n number of agents to tackle or inhibit the growth of microbials. And microbial what? Starting from bacteria, funguses, parasites, then as well as viruses. And you all know recent pandemic. आपल्याला कसे डर के आगे की कार्यक्रम है. अपन विसरलो कोविड ना. After gathering, you have to wear the mask. Now we are forgotten all the things. हम डरे देता अच्छे थे. आता कैसे? In case of AMR, it is also world's concern. It is considered as the largest silent pandemic in the current era. It is the most important, largest, neglected, silent type of pandemic. It is slowly growing, and there is a reverse graph. Your antibiotic consumption is increasing, AMR is increasing, but development of antibiotic. If you go to the WHO and if you search how many antibiotics is discovered in last 20 years, that enumeration is in a single digit. नवीन अँटीबायोटिक किती आले आहे तर शोधलं गुगल मध्ये तर तुम्हाला लक्षात येईल की नवीन अँटीबायोटिक बोटावर मोजण्यात की आले. त्यामुळे कन्सर्न आहे. आणि का कन्सर्न आहे? क्लिनिशियन्स. फॉर क्लिनिशियन्स. दिस इज आवर रिपोर्ट. यू ऑल नो दिस रिपोर्ट. इफ यू आर युजिंग व्हायटल सिस्टम यू आर अवेअर अबाउट दिस रिपोर्ट. आता या रिपोर्ट मध्ये विशेष काय दिसत नाही त्याच्यात, पण कोलिस्टीन, ट्रायमेथोप्रिन, त्याच्यानंतर फॉस्फोमायसिन आणि ट्रायमेथोप्रिन युरिनचा कल्चर रिपोर्ट आहे. युरिनचा पॅड आहे 235 आणि फॉस्फोमायसिन आणि ट्रायमेथोप्रिन सल्फरमेथोल सेन्सिटिव्ह ऑफ बाकी ऑल आर रेजिस्टेंट. If you got this type of report, what to do is the most important thing. Now, why drug resistance is important? When Fleming discovered the first antibiotic, at that time he predicted these antibiotics or these magic bullets is going to become a resistant. Why? Due to our use or our irrational use. Another statement, drug resistance follows the drug like a faithful shadow. That statement is 1854 for our age. And that statement is now become a truth. And day by day, while treating n number of organisms, that drug resistance is increasing in a trend. This is the timeline. First antibiotic was discovered starting from the 1940 itself. When Fleming says this magic bullet is going to be a fail, it immediately fell in a 1940. Penicillin resistant staphylococcus species arises. Later on, 1943, 1950 tetracycline, 1953 erythromycin, and recently in 2020, cefidrol and lanifulin. These are the new agents which we use as an oral antibiotics to treat many grievous infections. All parasites, viruses, all are becoming resistant to respective antimicrobials. And factors are combined. We are living in one zone where environment always matter, where animals matter, and our intention to use the antimicrobials also matters. And this concept is called as the One Health concept. And now world is also focusing on One Health concept. तुम्ही ज्या 3 पॅरामीटरपैकी एका पॅरामीटरवर लक्ष दिलं फक्त अँटीबायोटिकवर किंवा ह्युमन हेल्थवर, इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू इम्प्रूव्ह द अँटीमायक्रोबियल रेसिस्टन्स. यू हॅव टू चेक, मेक things correct in all 3 parameters. हे burden cover झाले. n number of days, 1.72 millions. These are the stats. And surprisingly, if I am not wrong, National Surveillance Network is having a program, and that in National Antimicrobial Surveillance Program, only government medical colleges are enrolled. If I am not wrong, only government. Why? If you are not a part of representation of national data, then you are lacking. Private medical college should contribute and should approach to the government. These stats are maybe wrong. These are the tip of iceberg. We म्हणतो 1.27 millions आणि हा डाटा 2019 चा. करंट डाटा दर 5 वर्षाला सर्व्हेलन्सचा डाटा येतो. आपला करंट डाटा आहे 2025 ला. आपण जेव्हा बोलतोय त्या मोमेंटला हे फिगर्स नाही का ट्रिपल मध्ये गेले असतात. Now regarding AMR, slide थोडी छोटी आहे, पण पालन करा. Drug resistant bacteria are equally important. Drug resistant fungi are also equally important. Drug resistant viruses are also equally important. In case of drug resistant bacteria, there is the list of priority organisms where you have to focus, you have to concern. अभी एक important है, किती practitioner आहेत आले? कोणी आहे practitioner? आहेत ना? तर मला एक विचारायचं आहे, तुमच्याकडे जर antimicrobial sensitivity पाठवला तुम्ही समजा, whether you are checking the name of the bug, कुठला ऑर्गॅनिझम बघतो का आपण? आपलं कसं असते, नाम में क्या रहता है? In case of antimicrobial resistance, name is most important thing. Why? When we see the types of antimicrobial resistance, most important type we always neglect, that is the intrinsic type of resistance, and that point is having you have to know. एक सिस्टम आहे आपल्याकडे, ऑटोमॅटिक सिस्टम जे आपण वापरतो, तुम्ही कंपनीचं नाव घेत नाही, पार्डन करा. एव्हरी सिस्टम हॅज देअर लॅकिंग्स. आणि मगाशी सरांनी म्हटलं की डॉक्टर आणि फार्मासिस्ट याचं फार्मसी आणि डॉक्टरांचं जे काय असतंय तसं लॅब आणि डॉक्टरांचं बरंच काय असतं. तर त्या मुवमेंट मध्ये नाही का, whether you are checking your lab which is providing you a sensitivity report, it is providing you that sensitivity report with ID or not. ऑटोमॅटिक सिस्टम मध्ये पर्याय आहे, एक ऑटोमॅटिक सिस्टम मी पण वापरतोय की त्यामध्ये एक कार्ड असतं अँटीमायक्रोबियल ससेप्टिबिलिटी टेस्ट, दुसरं कार्ड असतं आयडेंटिफिकेशन. आणि मी मोस्ट ऑफ द मेट्रो सिटी मध्ये जिथे माझे मित्र प्रॅक्टिस करतात कमर्शियल मोठ्या लॅबमध्ये, मी त्यांनाही विचारलं, त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे की फिजिशियन्स और क्लिनिशियन नेव्हर बॉदर अबाउट द नेम, वी ओनली पुट द एसटी कार्ड आणि त्यांना जे आवडतं नाव ते नाव आम्ही टेक्नॉलॉजिस्ट मध्ये जाऊन त्या सिस्टीमच्या ते नाव टाकतो आणि मग ती एसटी इंटरप्रिट होतं. पण एक मायक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट किंवा एक लॅब पर्सन म्हणून जर तुम्ही विचार केला तर इंट्रिन्सिक रेजिस्टन्स ऑफ एव्हरी बॅक्टेरिया इज डिफरंट, and when you are relying on automated system, at that moment what happens, that system is totally based on the data, which data is provided to that machine in a backup. At that moment what happens, जर सुडोमोनास त्यावेळी बर्कुलिटी आयडेंटिफाय होत असेल पण तो फिजिशियनला बर्कुलिटी माहितीच नाहीये, ऑर्गॅनिझम असतो असं माहितीच नाहीये, तो एकाच नॉन लॅक्टोज फर्मेंटिंग फॅमिलीचा ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे, त्या मोमेंटला तुम्ही त्याला चेंज करून सुडोमोनास देता किंवा तुम्ही त्याचा आयडी लावत नाही, तर बर्कुलिटीचा इंट्रिन्सिक रेजिस्टन्स पॅटर्न अगेन्स्ट कॉमनली यूज्ड अँटीमायक्रोबियल इज ह्यूज. इट इज सेन्सिटिव्ह टू ओनली 5 ड्रग्स. जेवढं मी आता युरिन मध्ये 30 ड्रग दाखवल्यात त्या सेन्सिटिव्हिटी रिपोर्ट मधल्या फक्त 5 ड्रगला तो सेन्सिटिव्ह असतो. Other groups of drug in Burkholderia totally intrinsic resistance. even though that susceptibility report showing sensitivity, that drug is not going to attack, act in vivo. In vitro vivo